Trade formed a big component of talks during the inaugural Indo-US 2+2 dialogue, talking about Indo-US trade, the trade deficits, and the steps that the two countries need to take to improve market access is Mr. Thomas Donohue, who's the chief of the US Chambers of Commerce. Mr. Donohue, thank you very much for speaking to CNBC TV18. Our first question about the 2+2 dialogue: how did you think the dialogue went? What are the key issues or takeaways that you see from it? And what are your views on the COMCASA?
Well, first of all, in my view, the dialogue was better than one might expect on the first move forward. In part because Secretary Pompeo and Defense Secretary Mattis are two of the most skilled and respected people in the U.S. government. And they came here well prepared, as did the Indian leadership. And we came away with 3, 4, maybe even 5 things of significance.
US has been complaining about market access issues for a number of years now. If I request you to list out those market access issues, what would that be?
I think, and I've been personally involved in this, I think there were questions for a long time between US and in India on a whole series of trade issues. The first was, if we make an economic deal, an acquisition, an investment, is it still good 2 years from now? And Prime Minister Modi, when he was running for office, by the way, he's been to the chamber 3 times since he began that, and he made it very clear. A deal is a deal, a contract's a contract, and we're open for business. And my view of his steps forward in one of the biggest countries and biggest economies, not in economic size, but in scope, in the world, he's done very, very well. American, I'm here because of the India-US economic dialogue and our organization, and we had a great meeting. First time in 40-some years that we ever brought that annual meeting here to India, and we had a team of people. Why were they here? Because things are better in access. What did they do? Meeting with their Indian counterparts and people from government, they set the groundwork for improved growth. Set a couple of objectives. We have a joint $125 billion economic system. Guess what? For countries our size, that's ridiculous. And we have a plan to get it up over $500 billion by 2025. And you're finding that because the Indian government met its commitments.
We're one of the largest beneficiaries of the H-1B program. Would you agree with the review? Would you urge the US government to probably have a lenient view towards the Indian diaspora in the United States?
I think that the US government should have an enlightened view. There is no question that the people first that are educated in our great universities, and many of them Indian scientists, mathematicians, physicists, they should have an opportunity to stay in the United States with, they'd have to go through the normal process of doing it. But if you don't have workers in the United States and scientists and extraordinary people that have been well educated in these areas, and they go home, we're going to have to send the work with them. So our deal is to have a balance. Some Indian scientists want to go home. They have already got an idea of the company they're going to found or who they're going to work for. But as many of them that are interested in staying in the United States, we need to look at an enlightened way to do it. There is something going on with immigration in the U.S. that we have to deal with. Of course, if we hire a skilled executive, he's going to want to bring his family. He want to bring maybe the parents. But you can't bring everybody that lives on the block, because if you do, you're shutting down lots and lots of opportunities for more skilled employees.
So, Mr. Donohue, you feel that H-1B and H-4 visas, which have been functioning, and they have been giving a lot of opportunities to thousands of people from across the globe, including India, it's high time it is reviewed in the interest of America.
I'll use my definition. It's in our enlightened self-interest to have the best human and intellectual talent that we can get in today's modern scientific-based economy. And we're going to have to do that in ways that protect the opportunity for U.S. workers to enter the workforce if they're skilled enough, and protect the rights of people that have been educated in the U.S. to have a serious consideration to be added. It's simple. If we don't have the people, we don't get the job done. And we have more problems than that because we have crops being left in the field because, you know, as many people are here that will work on that are working on it. We have the death age in the United States. The average death age has gone up to 80, and so we need more and more people to take care of the elderly. We built our country on the concept of immigration, and the only way we're going to keep growing it is to use it in a prudent way.
Mr. Donohue, if I request you to list out areas where India needs to give more market access. Recently, the U.S. Trade Representative's Office put the GSP benefits for India under review because there was also pressure from the medical industry in the United States and the dairy industry. So if I request you to list out some areas where we can improve market access for U.S. companies, what would that be?
Well, I think you have to look at what's going on in the United States. You know, we have this fascinating, and we're going to fix it, debate about NAFTA. And when you get down to what's going on to conclude this NAFTA negotiation, it's dairy, it's softwood lumber, it's issues. You know, if we don't have some things to argue about, there's nothing for the trade representative to do. And I would say, yes, there are places that everybody wants to be able to get into the market. You know what those are by looking at where the strong economic activity is. If it's in technology, then everybody wants to get into that market. If it's in agriculture, everybody wants to get into that market. If it's in medical, and by the way, there are very significant opportunities here in medical equipment and pharmaceuticals, all that I have seen over a long time. People aren't running around to get into the weak markets. What India wants from the United States and what we want from India is to help each other grow and open up opportunities in a fair, competitive way. And I'm confident that the things we've just done in 2+2, the fact that we had this major meeting here with the India-U.S. Business Council, and the fact that we have developed over the last, particularly since Modi's election, a much more realistic and system, and a system that says a commitment's made is a commitment kept.
Okay. When we talk about data localization, Mr. Donohue, U.S. companies have been lobbying against this, and there is a central bank circular, an Indian central bank circular, which says that by 15th October, data by payments companies should be stored within India. What problem does it create?
Well, it creates a massive problem for India, because India is one of the best service organizations for helping people all over the world operate, and their technology that deals with the data and deals with finance and deals with all of that. Well, if every one of those countries say that all of our data is staying here, well, first of all, there's no such thing as a transaction. I mean, you go take your American Express card, go anywhere in the world, and stick it in the machine. It goes click in 2 seconds. But if you can't move the data out of wherever it happened, how are you going to make the payment system work? And India, who is a leader in these industries, and also a leader in developing the human talent in those industries, if you lead the way, and which you aren't, others are much stronger and pressing to keep all the data in their neighborhood, it basically disconnects them from the rest of the world, and you're going to find that doesn't work very well. We're open. We're very anxious to have a program where we protect the secrecy of the data, that we fight against all of the issues that we're seeing now with people cracking into all the systems. We believe people's personal data should be protected and not sold from here to there without full knowledge of it. But to say that it has to stay in my country means I've just locked the door and I'm not doing business with anyone else.
All right. Now, if we speak about steel and aluminium tariffs, India has been lobbying against them, saying that there should be an exception made for India as well. Would you urge the US government to make that exception for India?
I believe...
Or do you feel that those steel and aluminium tariffs are necessary?
They were necessary to make a point. And long before they were done, meaning, 6 months, China, significantly reduced their exports of steel to the United States. I think the president sent a pretty interesting message. I don't like to do our trade activity with tariffs because, as I said before, we pay for them. The people that we're putting the tariffs on don't. In other words, I buy $1 million worth of steel from China, I have to send a check for $250,000 to the U.S. government. We need to find a way to put the pressure on the Chinese by controlling market access and other things. And by the way, everybody in the United States, all the people we're trading with, everybody wants exceptions. And I believe that that's helping us think this thing through. My message to the United States government is trade is essential to our existence. And fair trade is important for the government to work towards. I'm not an expert on the price flexibility and trade back and forth with India on aluminum and steel, but everybody is focused on it now, and I'm sure over the next reasonable period of time we're going to work this out.
Mr. Donohue, thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. I enjoyed it.